Welcome to the SecureWorld Sessions. We are a cybersecurity podcast that's all about access. Access to people and ideas, things that can impact your cybersecurity career and also help you secure your organization. Hi, my name is Bruce Sussman. I'm Director of Content at SecureWorld and your podcast host. And in today's session, we are starting a two-part mini-series on cybersecurity red teams, blue teams, and purple team exercises. It's the attackers versus the defenders. As you might guess, we're talking to both red teamers and blue teamers, and here's a shocker. Red teamers say their roles are the best. Also in this episode, our premier podcast partner, Trend Micro, is sharing key takeaways from its recent 2019 Security Roundup report, which is titled The Sprawling Reach of Complex Threats. And SecureWorld's Vice President is going to join us later in the show to talk about the coronavirus and a status update for our regional cybersecurity conferences in the first half of 2020. So, lots to talk about. Let's get this show rolling down the tracks. And we're starting with the much celebrated and the much noticed red team. They are on the attack, poking, prodding, and scheming against a corporate network to find security vulnerabilities by thinking like hackers might. Now, I interviewed Chris Carlis of Zurich Insurance at SecureWorld Chicago, and he told me his title is Red Team Court Jester. So you already know one thing about him. He has a sense of humor. And as it turns out, he loves his job. I'm going to let him tell it. The audio's not quite as sharp as here in the studio, and you'll also hear the typical SecureWorld conference collaboration in the background. My first question to Chris Carlis, why do you believe in seeing red?
Red team, I think at the very basis level, is all about providing alternative analysis. When everyone else in the company is saying things are going north, we'll step and say, like, what if they're actually going south? What if things aren't going how we think they're going? And what would be the impact of that? Provided, we're looking at information security and other IT issues, it moves more to what would an attacker do if things aren't going how we think they're going? Where do we think that we're strong, that we're actually weak? Where are the cracks in our defenses that someone could exploit? Red Team will look to identify those sort of weaknesses that the organization may not even realize exists. And then, I think really one of the important parts is demonstrate the impact of successful exploitation of those resources. So it's not just pointing things out and saying things are, this looks broken. It's going further and saying, we noticed this looks broken. We tested it. We found weaknesses. We were able to leverage that to provide this legitimate business impact. We'll stop short of actually costing people money, but it is no longer going to be an argument like this could happen, this couldn't happen. We will demonstrate this could totally happen. Penetration testing Red Team, it is by far the best job ever, I think, at least that I've ever had.
And why?
You break the law literally every day. Stuff other people go to jail for, that's on the daily job kind of thing. It's a lot of fun. You find interesting things, and at the end, what you're doing is helping people. So you get to do bad things, but for a good reason. And for the right, for the right mindset, for the right type of personality, that hits all the buttons.
So if the sound of red teaming pushes your buttons, how do you get there from your current role? Or what if you are standing up a red team? You need a bigger team, something like that. Who should you look for? Well, here are some ideas.
I think that I talk to a lot of folks who want to move into penetration testing and move into red teaming. And it is something that almost nobody does initially. Everyone moves to it from something else. So a lot of folks will maybe they'll be developers. So go to school for for computer science, so they have a job as developer, and then they'll want to move into security, they'll want to move into penetration testing, and they'll move into a role of application testing. Because they've spent time in that role, they know essentially the mistakes, the dumb things that developers do, the shortcuts, the easy mode things that make stuff less secure, and so they become skilled at finding those in other people's code and applications. Similarly with network administrators, they'll make excellent network penetration testers. I even feel that if you work a lot of time in the help desk, you know a lot of like foolish stuff that users tend to do, and you can leverage that information to perform penetration testing. With a red team, a lot of times it comes into the team aspect. You'll gather some folks that have not identical but complementary skills. I work where I'm a strong network penetration tester, I'm a strong physical penetration tester, but personally I'm not the strongest in application testing. But I work with a strong application tester. And so if I can identify something during a test that says this looks like might be a vulnerable application, I can tap in my teammate and have him like take it further, or at least move through it with more stealth and more ease than I would be able to. Just because it's just like the blue team's a team, the red team will operate as a team to achieve their goals.
And we've been talking to Chris Carlis of Zurich Insurance about the red team. And now we're going to flip to the other side of the coin. We're going to hear from one of Carlos's colleagues, a blue teamer. Austin Rappeport heads threat defense at Zurich Insurance, and he is passionate about being on the blue team. And I also interviewed him at SecureWorld Chicago. They were actually speaking together. Anyway, I asked him to explain his view of the blue and what he loves most.
Catching the bad guys, especially my red team. Seeing, from my side, building out new security threat detections, it's seeing those work and seeing those actually be successful at finding something that I know we wouldn't have found before or without it. So, having that impact, I think, on improving the security posture is my favorite part. So, our blue team is made up of three groups in our cybersecurity department. It's our incident response team, our threat defense operations team, my team, and our threat intelligence team. And I think the basic component of that blue team is obviously incident response. That's what blue team ultimately is there for, to respond to security alerts. So what those other teams do to kind of feed into that core goal is my threat defense operations team builds out those alerts. We work with our security incident and event monitoring platform to build out more customized alerts than what's baked in, and really tune the alerts for our environment, because no one knows your environment better than you do. And then our threat intelligence team, they really help provide context for what's going on in the larger world. What should we be prioritizing for our security detections? What should we be prioritizing for our security alerts? This is, an active technique. This is what we should be, responding to more quickly, because we know that an adversary that is interested in the financial sector is actively using. So that's kind of how those three teams interoperate with each other. And I think if you're talking about fundamentals, start with incident response, and then you can kind of build those other teams naturally out of your incident responders.
Now we're going to hear more from Austin as we explore the red and blue working together during purple team engagements designed to make the organization more secure. They're going to share what they're up to. That's coming up, along with a SecureWorld coronavirus update. One of the most popular panels at SecureWorld conferences each year has to do with emerging threats. There's this natural curiosity about what's new, what's trending, and how it informs security's efforts to protect the organization. So it makes sense, right? Well, I'll be sure and let you know about research along these lines. It's Trend Micro's annual security roundup, titled The Sprawling Reach of Complex Threats. And it looks at what's new and what's trending over the last 12 months. It is also part of today's Trend Micro Top 3. Number 1, ransomware actors changed their tactics, but also their targets in 2019, and the report unpacks both how and why. Number 2, researchers found the CEO is still the top spoofed employee in business email compromise attacks. And number 3, what's trending? Trend Micro blocked 52 billion threats that targeted its customers in 2019, up significantly from the year prior. And the report breaks these threats down. Now, I'm putting a link to this research in the show notes. It is incredible. It's 51 pages long, but it's very visual, it's very rich, it's easy to understand, and it gives you a broad view at the threat landscape as we march into 2020. So check it out. It's in the show notes. And thanks again to Trend Micro, our premier podcast partner. We're continuing now with part 1 of our mini-series on the red team versus the blue team, and that includes red and blue working directly against each other in purple team exercises. So let's go back to SecureWorld Chicago, where blue teamer Austin Rappeport of Zurich Insurance explains how he views these purple team battles.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the relationship, it absolutely cannot be adversarial. I'm really good friends with my red teams, both at work and outside of it, because, they have an important role to play. And it's not about winning or losing. It's about improving, finding flaws with your security posture in your organization, and then ultimately, fixing them. And the best way to fix them is to prove that they happen, which is exactly what the purple team exercise is all about. Finding flaws, documenting it, having evidence, and then being able to use that to drive change and drive improvement. Well, we've been starting slow. I think we've done 4 over the past 6 months. So we're trying to ramp up that speed a little bit, but it's relatively new, I think, for everyone. Relatively new for us. So we're learning and improving and taking some time to reflect on what we did, what worked, what didn't, and improve the process. So I'd say good goal to strive for would be 1 a month, 1 every quarter, something in that range. A plan is vital. If you just go in saying, we're going to do a purple team exercise without having an understanding of what you're going to test, what you're trying to find, you may have some success, but it won't be as effective as it could have been. So having that plan, having everyone agree to it ahead of time, at least at a high level, a narrative, right, that you're a story that you're gonna walk through and work through, I think is probably the most important part of the exercise.
And how does a red teamer see these exercises? Chris Carlis of Zurich Insurance explains.
Purple team is it's a fun exercise for us. It's something where we know we're going to get to try and use a whole bunch of stuff. We're not necessarily going to be learning anything new, but we're going to give the blue team a chance to defend as realistically as we can. To say, like, there's an attack going on, and we're going to give you guys, we're going to throw it, some spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks. We don't know it's going to work. We hope the stuff we try is going to work, and but some stuff may be detected. But in the end, we can go to the blue team and say, this is what we tried, and they say, this is what we picked up. Here's where we stopped. Yeah, we noticed that stopped working right away, and we shifted to this. It is a bit different than just a regular red team exercise in that we're not, necessarily looking to go after a specific, just goal and get it out without being detected. A lot of times with purple teaming, the idea is to be detected, to test and, say that the blue team is going to know that what you're doing is being detected. Even if it doesn't effectively get picked up during, by the tooling during the engagement, the white team who's sort of overall looking at how this test is being run, how the engagement is being run, is going to inform the blue team and have them take a look and say, this is what you've missed. And this is now how the situation is, and testing will continue from that point. To know that they are close on our heels like that, it can make for a fun, exciting engagement.
Well, thanks so much to both Chris and Austin for sharing your insights. We appreciate you. And I think the thing that sticks with me most is the idea that you have to have a plan for your Purple Team exercises to really maximize all the work that goes into setting it up. And I also love the fact you guys will go out and have, food and drinks afterwards as friends. That is really cool. By the way, I also asked, why were you at SecureWorld? I mean, what did you see as the point of this type of collaboration? Here's the answer.
We're all standing on the shoulders of people who have developed things, who've learned and shared, and have allowed us to grow personally and professionally. And so to get to the point where you can come and say, oh, I've got something new. I've got something interesting, and I think that if I shared it, it would help other people. That is almost at the height of what we can do professionally. To learn and then grow and develop new things and share it with the community is one of the best things we can do.
Well, we could not agree more, which is why SecureWorld, of course, has 17 regional cybersecurity conferences each year in the U.S. and Canada. You've probably heard me talk about that before. And perhaps you've heard me mention our mission statement, which is connecting, informing, and developing leaders in cybersecurity. Now, we're also recording this podcast at the start of 2020, and the coronavirus seems to be in every headline right now. So I thought we'd better bring in SecureWorld Vice President Brad Graver. He's here in the studio now. And Brad, kind of give us a status update of what you're seeing and what we're planning and how things are going.
Sure. Thanks, Bruce. First off, I just want to say that we certainly recognize the situation in our country and around the world, for that matter, that everyone's going through. And it is interesting to see how people are actually coming together to help each other in this time. So I'm trying to take some positive out of that.
That is a cool
side
feature.
As well. It is kind of neat. So obviously, like other companies and especially other conferences, we are looking at this situation very closely and how we can minimize risk. And here's some things that we have put in place operationally on our end, from the attendee experience, from check-in through the end of the conference. We're eliminating as many touch points as we can, from when you check in at registration to how lunch is being served, and everywhere throughout the day, how people interact with each other.
And so at check-in, give me an example of how things have shifted.
Sure. Well, in the past, we'd have laptops up at the reg counters, and people would step up and type in their name, and the badge would print off. We've removed that process. So now people will come up and show us some form of identification, and then we will, on our end, handle everything that goes along with registering them for the conference, as well as printing off the badge and inserting it and everything along that line. So, simple touches, but ones that in the past, they weren't of a concern. And going forward, this is just something we can do to help eliminate risk.
Yeah, that's great. And I think our audience certainly relates to that idea, right, of mitigating as much risk as possible. So it sounds like we're doing that. What else?
So, we are in touch with every facility and have been assured that, one, there's going to be multiple sanitizing stations placed throughout the conference. So those will be clearly marked and visible, as well as the cleaning crews will operate multiple times throughout the day in the breakout rooms, on the main floor, in the keynote, everywhere where our audience is going to be, to ensure the health and safety of all of our attendees. And I just want to add one more quick thing is our attendee base is from that local community. And I think that's important to remember as in the news, conferences are being canceled or postponed. And for the most part, those have been, all multi-thousand events and global organized events, whereas we are much smaller in nature, as well as from the local community. And it's our belief that helps minimize the risk as well.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of echoed. I know the CDC director said recently, and I'm quoting here, at this time, however, most people in the United States will have little immediate risk of exposure to the virus. This virus is not, and he capitalized NOT, not, currently spreading widely in the United States. So, yeah, hopefully all the things that we've talked about here, come together to mitigate the situation in an already low-risk situation. But I know that you're tracking this continuously.
Oh, yeah, it's part of. I think it's part of everybody's responsibility as well to ensure the health of their employees and of course our attendees. And I just want to say too that we have actually put these plans in place. And in our Charlotte conference last week, we enacted these plans and went off without a hitch. And Charlotte was a great conference. That InfoSec community in Charlotte is just on fire with accepting us and our message. And it's just fantastic. It was the first year we expanded to a 2-day conference in Charlotte. And the vendor community as well as the practitioner community all showed up in force. We had record attendance there as well. And yet there were more elbow bumps than usual and fist bumps, and that's totally acceptable. And
Absolutely.
and it was great. It was great. So I just want to shout out to Charlotte and look forward to continuing on in the spring.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, great, Brad. And I was just looking at our calendar before you came into the studio. It looks like coming up, we still have Philadelphia, SecureWorld Boston, Houston, Cincinnati, Toronto, Kansas City, Atlanta, and Chicago during the first half of the year. So thanks so much, Brad, for coming in and giving us an update.
Thank you.
All right, and so you can check out a Secure World conference if you would like to that's near you. I will put a link in the show notes to the conference calendar. It might be a great year to stay close to home, right, for a conference and check it out and build your own local network, which is one of the things that we often hear from our security leaders who attend. Also, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Corbett, who's an InfoSec in Denver, and he sent us some feedback on the podcast, and I'm quoting here. Corbett says, "I'm an addicted listener to the podcast and find your sessions upbeat, information-packed, and never long enough. I cannot say the same for several other podcasts I listen to, which sometimes double as sleeping aids." Corbett, thank you. Appreciate that feedback and your sense of humor. That is great. And by the way, if you have feedback or questions, you can always reach me. media@secureworldexpo.com is the address. That's media@secureworldexpo.com. Or you can find me on Twitter. Tweet me at the Cybersus. And that's all one word, at the Cybersus. And the last 4 letters are S like in Sam, USS, both like in Sam. All right. Next time, our mini-series continues, and it's going to be a deep dive with blue teamer Ryan Mostiller of Penske Automotive Group. He is talking about ways for the blue team to get more credit for their work. But I actually think his tips could actually help anyone in InfoSec get more credit for their work. So listen next Tuesday if you could use more credit for what you do. And on behalf of our editor, Pete, and the rest of the Secure World team, I'm Bruce Sussman, your host of the Secure World Sessions, and we'll see you next Tuesday.